Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're taking a look at another new line of kits out from Bandai. This time it is from the 86 series. I have no familiarity with the series. I've not seen it all or anything, so I don't really know anything about the backstory on that end. But they're making a series of these different kind of like walking tank kits like this from the series. And they're also making a figurized standard character figure model of the girl character here from the series as well too, which I will not be checking out, but that also exists, just to let you guys know about that. But this one here is the 148 scale general purpose type version of the Juggernaut, bitch. Anyway, so let's go ahead and check it out. So right here on the front of the box, you got this really cool scene there of these couple of Juggernauts walking through this kind of forest, kind of destroyed building scene back over here, shooting some kind of machine guns there on the front. Looks very cool, nice illustration there. You got the title down here, 148 scale. Around on the other side, basically kind of the same thing there. It doesn't look like there's going to be any sort of numbering system for these kits out of the 86 series, so they'll just kind of have to. Here's a little bit about the weapons here, and it looks like we got some maybe different markings for this, so depending on which pilot you wanted to have operating that, you'll have some different marking stickers for that. He's got some wire anchors, which shoot out the front of there. That looked pretty cool. That looks pretty cool. A 57mm smoothbore cannon there for the top. Over here we got some more details about the rear side of that. It looks like, what's this, the M101 Barrett combat support mecha that accompanies the Juggernaut is included. So that looks like a little cutie guy to be included with that there as well. Some details there about the feet, the legs, and all that. The figure inside is 148 scale, so you got two little figures, one seated inside there, and this one there of Lena there. It looks like Vladilena Mili is kind of hard to read, so again, very small print there for me sitting behind the camera. But anyway, yeah, so you got those, which would be 148 scale, you know, not necessarily that large, but you got those included in there as well. Over here, a look at the series lineup. So you got the Juggernaut Shin use, and then the long range cannon type, so a couple other different variants there. The long-range cannon type, I believe, is the other one that I will be reviewing there for you guys once that one comes in. Then here's a little bit about the figurized standard Lena. That kit is also, like I said, is also going to be available, so you can check that out if you're interested. But let's go ahead and crack open the box, see what we got in here. It's molded in pretty cool colors. I mean, just the colors of it are pretty interesting as well too. Kind of muted, nothing too bright and fancy, colorful with the colors, so kind of very realistic, I guess, in that sense. Let's check out the manual here. We got the box art there at the top, and then in the middle you got a bunch of information, but it's in super fine print there, so you can check that out if you can read that, but that's just a little bit of information there. Got some down here, I guess, about the pilot, Kaye Tania, and then Lena there. Around here on the back side, again, just where to place the marking sticker. So it looks like probably that's going to be the only sticker that we have included with that, just based on this image there. You got some information over here about that in Japanese and in English, and then the color guide down here. So color guide for the main unit, and then color guide for the different pilot figures there for you to do that, and for the Barrett as well too. So you got all the colors there, lots of colors there for you in Japanese and in English. Opening it up to the inside here, we've got a parts list, and then the rest of this is just going to be all going through the construction, which I'm guessing should be pretty standard. But let's take a look at this here. It's kind of interesting. They give you little bits of information throughout the construction as well too. So about the cockpit, here's some information there in Japanese and in English about just the cockpit, for example. So that's really cool addition to add into the manual here. We've got a couple of those little blurbs. We got another one over here about the armor, one over here about the sensor, about the legs, about the cannon. So really cool to have some little background information, some more information about these kind of thrown in throughout the manual. So as you're building, you can kind of pause and read up about some of this stuff, about the heavy machine gun, about the wire anchor. So that's really cool. So here are those marking stickers. As you can see, they're just little sticker decals there, which, I mean, do look alright, but would have loved if those were waterslide decals. Then we've got our two little black wires here for the anchors. And our A runner here is molded in 4 colors. You have some kind of off-white cream color over here on the side for some outer armor, a couple little red bits up there at the top, a couple of clear parts down here, looks like probably for a camera, and then for a little clear kind of base piece, and then some dark gray for basically everything else. Here under B1 as well too, we've got some more of that dark, kind of slightly bluish dark gray color here for a bunch of the internal parts, joint parts, detail parts, and everything like that. We've also got a runner B2, which is a copy of this part of the runner right here. Runner C1, also in that off-white cream color, is going to have our pilot figure and then our Lena figure, which is basically one part for the main body and everything, and then a separate piece there for one of her arms. And then some more armor pieces there. On runner C2, we've got a copy of this portion of the runner there. Runner D is once again back to that dark gray color. We've got some weapons parts over here and the parts for the Barrett, which is pretty sizable. It looks like that's going to be quite larger than what I was expecting, but it also doesn't look like it's going to have a whole lot of articulation or anything. It's going to be pretty simple, just from what I can tell from the couple of parts there. And finally, runner F is just these couple little barrel parts, so you'll have no seam line on the barrels, just one solid piece. I'd love to see that. That's good. And this, I guess, is just going to be something that's standard maybe for this particular type. So there you have it, guys. I gotta say, just the first impression just of the parts is that I'm quite impressed. There's a lot of nice little details on there, and just the general kind of design of the parts, again, just at a glance, it looks pretty nice. So I'm really looking forward to getting this built up. Let me go ahead and do that, and then we'll see how it looks. Okay guys, it's the Juggernaut here, and wow, this kit is really cool. I gotta say, very impressed. I was not totally sold on the design, the whole like spider tank thing. I don't know if I'm really all that into it, but after building the kit, I can say very, very cool kit. Really super nice details all around, and it's just really well engineered. You'd think like, except for something that's just like a not Bandai's main thing, right? Like Gunpla is their main thing, and maybe a couple other different series would be much more higher on their priorities list. You would think this particular series wouldn't necessarily be a huge priority for Bandai, but you can definitely see they put a good amount of effort into this kit, definitely, and it turns out to be really quite nice. I only wish that maybe someday in the future we might be able to see like a larger scale version of it. Would be pretty cool as well too, to see what even more they could do in a larger size. This one's pretty small, but they've got a lot of detail packed into this small little package, so let's go ahead and check it out. So let's take a look at this dude in detail here. First of all, for the main eye there, I have the red piece in, but you do have the option of a clear piece. If you prefer, then you could paint the clear piece in whatever color you want, or whatever, for example. So you have an option with that. This little red piece up here, though, you don't have any option for. It's just a little red piece. But I will say, how awesome is it that those are tiny little red pieces, rather than just being, you know, stickers as you might expect. Those are actual little separate pieces, so fantastic color separation there. As for the marking stickers, I went ahead and went with this one for Kaie, which I guess is one of the 4 different options that you have. It's just this little like kind of sakura blossom there. Alright, so let's start off here with the main event, which is this massive cannon here on the top. It looks very cool, again, really nicely detailed. You have a little bit of seam line here at the back half, but as we saw in the unboxing, the front half, this is a solid piece, and this is a solid piece, so no seam line until you get kind of a little bit farther towards the back here, which is not that bad. If you pull up this part here at the back, you have an actual shell casing that is meant to just pop out. It doesn't actually, like, there's no mechanism to force it out, you just kind of have to take it out, but you got that as a separate piece. You could have this just kind of like sitting on the ground next to it or something. I wish that they would have given you a little bit more if you were setting this up as like a diorama. You could have like a bunch of these on the ground next to it or something like that, but it's just cool. That's the sort of working mechanism in that you can open that up and take that out, or load that back into there and close that back down there like that. You can change the angle of this, basically moving that up and down. You have this piston there at the back, which will work like that. Very cool. And then when it's all the way down, it kind of fits into this little bit here on the top of the tank like that is kind of the thing that it's resting on. So that all works very cool. And then here on the top, you can open up the cockpit, and then it's cool, this whole kind of front bar section, all of that also opens up like that, and there's your pilot figure seated inside, and you've got a lot of detail inside. It's going to be kind of hard to see because it's kind of dark, but you've got a lot of detail up inside there, and aside from just the pilot figure herself being pretty nicely detailed up inside there, so that's all very cool. These kind of machine guns here on the front can also be moved up and down. You can rotate those side to side a little bit here as well too. It's kind of hard to get them to do it because the leg is a little bit in the way, but if you move the leg, for example, if you had that post in a different way, you can move that out to the side, and so yeah, up and down, in and out. You can change the angle of those. Here is where your anchors are going to shoot out of, so this is like the stored form of those. Kind of hard to see that little part right there. So you take that out, and it's just this little guy here like that, and then you actually have to swap out this piece right there that this is plugged into. Right there, you swap this out for whether you want to have this deployed or not. It's not really that much of a difference, honestly. It's just kind of, I guess, if you wanted to look factual as to how it's meant to look, you're supposed to swap that out. But then we've got our 2 deployed anchors, which will look like this. You have that cool little sharp piece there on the end, and then this wire that will just plug right into there. And because the little bit at the end there hardly weighs anything, you shouldn't have any problems having this shooting like straight out like that, and you know it's going to be wobbly, but if you just have this set up on your shelf like that, it's going to stay up on its own perfectly fine. And just for you guys' reference, the length of that is right about at 10 centimeters. But I just want to make sure to get up close and show you guys some of the details up in here for this, because it's really super nicely detailed. All those little rivet marks in there, and then up here on the gun, and then even up underneath, you got some nice detail there. There's where you can see you can plug it onto an action base. So you've got a lot of really nice detail here on this. You can see once this is painted up and do a little bit of weathering on this and all that, it's going to be looking very cool. Anyway, then just moving on to the articulation of the legs. Each of the 4 legs is the same, so you can rotate it at the base there. You can also rotate it up and down there at that connection. You can also rotate it up and down at this connection, so there's kind of 2 up and down connections there. You can also rotate it at that connection, and then you have another point of articulation here. You can move it up and down, and then you have another point of articulation here. You can move it up and down. You can rotate that. So you've got a lot of articulation here in the legs. So putting it into basically any pose that you could want, you shouldn't have any trouble with that. And your little feet bits are pretty cool there for that as well too. So very cool. Aside from the accessories that you've seen so far, you do also have this little stand you can use for that, just to help it stand, because the legs are pretty thin, and I think it seems fine, but I guess if you're worried about like kind of the weight issue of it, because the main body and the cannon is pretty huge on top of these tiny little legs, I can see how maybe you might want to rely on this just for a little bit extra support, but honestly it doesn't really seem that necessary, because you'd have to have this like down pretty low or something like that to really utilize that. Not really necessary. And then our little 1/48 scale Lena figure here, also pretty nicely detailed, as you can see. So basically just a little bit of like mold line cleanup on that, and then just obviously had to basically hand paint the whole thing, but it's in a pretty nice scale. It's not super tiny, as small as like something like a 1/100 scale pilot figure. Not quite as big as a 1/20 scale figure, which would have been nice. Really would have been preferable if this would have been a 1/20 scale. The whole thing would have been bigger, but hopefully maybe at some point that would be a cool scale to see this in the future release. And then you have the Barrett, which is in the entirely wrong color, as it's kind of meant to mostly be orange. So I kind of wish they would have molded it in that orange color. I guess maybe, but I don't know. Then that maybe would have been a little bit obnoxious looking, because they probably would have made it like a too toy orangish. But anyway, it's all gray. Nothing really, for the most part, moves on this. These little legs, so it's all just fixed in place. The top half can be rotated, and these kind of arms out the back are on little ball joints, so you can kind of change the angle of those. Have those kind of out to the side like that, and you can move them up and down ever so slightly, but it's just basically a relatively simple kind of thing, and you got big hollow gaps in here on the inside of those arms. But as just like a separate little thing to be included, it's not a bad thing, and you could definitely play around with this if you wanted to make it into some sort of like a custom thing, or use this just for like custom parts. There's up underneath there as well too, just a bunch of hollow gaps. But in terms of the size, it's larger than I was expecting. Not being familiar with the anime, I didn't know like exactly how big it's supposed to be, but I expected it to be like this little thing, but it's you know, fairly good size compared to the size of the tank itself, the Juggernaut itself. So there you go. And just for a simple size comparison, here it is with your standard HG 1/44 scale Gundam kit. So you can see it's not going to be all that big, but that definitely makes you appreciate just all the detail that's there even more as well too. So there it is. So there you have it, guys. Well, it is a really cool kit, and I'm definitely very impressed by it. I mean, ultimately, it's not going to necessarily do all that much. You have a couple of cool accessories in there, like with the anchors, for example, and the inclusion of the extra figure and the Barretts there as well. I mean, are cool things to be added in there, but I mean, ultimately, it's basically going to be your options as far as posing are like standing, walking, and those poses are going to be kind of hard to tell the difference between the two of them, or like just with the canopy open or like that, or the hatch open, for example, or closed. So there's not necessarily a ton of different posing options that you can do with this kit, but still, I mean, a very cool kit. Definitely looking forward to checking out 1 or 2 more in the series. Like I said, I think there's 4 different variants on the books at the moment that we know are coming out in this line. We'll have to see if they end up making any more, or like I said, if they end up making a larger scale one. I kind of doubt that they'll make anything of a larger scale. That seems very unlikely, but it's just kind of wishful thinking on my part. I think it could be cool if they made like a full-on 1/20 scale kit. It'd be pretty large, about twice the size of this basically, but it'd be really cool, I think. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Are you planning on getting one of these kits, or any or all of them? Have you seen this series? Do you like this series? Do you recommend it or not? What do you think about the kits? What's your impression of it? Is it something that you were looking forward to? Or maybe it's, for some of you, you may not have even known that this was even going to be a thing. This might be your first time ever seeing this at all. So in which case, I will say, yeah, definitely check out these kits. And if you guys want to check them out or anything else from the store, of course, the link, as always, will be to US Gundam Store down in the video description there below. Kind of awkward way of saying that, but anyway, you guys know the deal. The link and the coupon code there for you guys to use are in the video description down below. Check that out, check these kits out, and everything else there on the side. Thank you, as always, to US Gundam Store for all of the support. It's awesome, and thank you guys all for watching the video, commenting, subscribing, liking the video, all of that good stuff. All means a lot. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys all next time. Have a good one. Bye, guys.